welcome to the Knitting Bookworm podcast. My name is Myra and I'll be your host today. You can find me on the internet as pretty much everywhere as Myra Beth Knits. So that is my username on Instagram and Ravelry, and then my blog URL is myrabethknits.com, and there you can find updates on what I've been working on, some tutorials. You can also find a couple of my patterns there, as well as on Ravelry. And that's about it. So today is January 6th, 2018. It's the first Saturday of the new year, which is why I am podcasting today. And I am filming in southwestern Connecticut, and it is very cold here. It is probably, last time I checked it was 10 degrees. That was a couple hours ago. It's now afternoon, so it might be a little bit warmer than that, but not much. And last time I checked, the wind chill was like -7 degrees Fahrenheit, which is cold. Very cold for here. So as I said, my name is Myra. I'm your host. I am filming in southwestern Connecticut, where I live with my husband Scott and our lovely cat Varen, who you will probably see today. I am sitting in one of her favorite spots, so whenever anyone is sitting in this chair, she likes to come and sit with them. So let's get started. Today in my mug I have a cup of coffee. It is an Americano from Starbucks because we are currently out of coffee. That's why I actually know what the temperature is, because my husband went and got it this morning from Starbucks. Not this morning, around noon. But he went and got it from Starbucks, and we live very close. We live walking distance from Starbucks. And he goes, I think I'm gonna walk to Starbucks. As I'm, we're sitting in our room, and I'm reading an article on my phone about how the blizzard we had this week affected, the wind currents coming down from the Arctic. And in this article, they're saying, when we'll hit record low temperatures on Saturday. It's like, I don't know that you want to walk to Starbucks. They're certainly not record low temperatures. I mean, 10 degrees. That's a fairly common temperature here. The wind chill is a little bit low. It's a very low temperature for here. -7 degrees. We don't typically see temperatures that low more than a couple days out of the year. Like, there'll be that one freakishly cold day that we'll see, below 0 temperatures with wind chills, but other than that, that's pretty uncommon for this part of New England. So I do have my coffee this morning, though it came at a price. Though he had plenty of knitwear to keep him warm, so he was fine. But yes, my husband braved the cold for this cup of coffee that I am currently enjoying. So now that we've talked about my coffee, let's get into what I've been working on. So I have a couple finished objects to show you today. I haven't podcasted since I think it was mid-May. And I'm not going to show you all of the things that I've finished since May, partially because I don't have them all. A lot of them were gifts, and they've been gifted. And partially because that is just too much. When I decided I was going to start podcasting again, when I decided how it's going to work into my schedule, I've sort of been putting off this episode because of the number of things I felt that I had to talk about. So I've grabbed a handful of the finished objects that I had conveniently, and then as far as works in progress, I'm just going to show you what I've been working on recently. Not going to pull out any languishing whips from May, and just go from here. So this is not going to be a crazy long episode. So the first finished object I have for you, which is I think the first thing I finished chronologically and also the first on the pile, is this little baby sweater. The pattern, I completely forget the name. It's not in English. is actually a onesie pattern. I also don't remember the designer's name, so I'll put it in a little description box down here. But it is this laced pattern onesie. I knit it into a sweater. The yarn is Wonderland yarns, and they're Cheshire Cat base. I think that's what their name is. And then the colorway I think is Jub Jub Bird. And I only remember that because it's kind of an odd name, but it's this lovely, you know, variegated pinkish purple color. And I knit this for my cousin's baby, who I have to really sew on the buttons and give this to her because her baby is now a month old. This is the 0 to 3 month size, so it'll fit her for a while, hopefully. But yeah, my cousin, I decided to make this size instead of the newborn size because she was due in November, so late November, early December, and I didn't know how cold it would be then. And also, her first kid was big. He was really big when he was born. So I wanted to make sure it was a little bigger so it would definitely fit her daughter. So I've got to sew the buttons on and get that to her ASAP. But that's that pattern. I have sort of mixed feelings about this pattern. I think it would have been better if I had made a different yarn choice. I don't particularly love the yarn that I used. It was kind of splitty, and it was definitely a very fine fingering weight yarn. I mean, it plumped up very nicely, but, excuse me, it plumped up very nicely, but it was definitely a little challenging to work with, and also the pattern isn't super user-friendly. I would say it's well written and it's well laid out, but it's written in a style that's a little bit more of a recipe. So there's really no instructions on how to center this chart. So it's a top-down pattern, and then you have this lace chart here, and there's really no instructions on how to center that lace chart over the onesie. You really sort of have to go by the picture of the onesie that comes with the pattern to figure that out. And it's just, I would not recommend it as a beginner pattern. If you're comfortable with lace work, then you should be fine. None of the techniques are hard. It's just sort of mapping out those first couple rows and deciding where everything's supposed to go. That's the challenge. Okay. So moving on, I have a couple pairs of Christmas socks that need their ends woven in. These are called the Charlie socks. I bought the pattern off Knit Picks, but it has at least a page on Ravelry. I'm not sure if you can actually download it from Ravelry's site, but these are knit out of Knit Picks Stroll tweed. The green is forest heather, and then the gray creamy color I think it's either down heather or dove heather, one of the two. And then so the pattern is written toe up. I do not knit toe up socks. You just end up with this ugly cast off edge. Like, I just, yeah, I really dislike the way Jenny's super stretchy bind off looks. I just don't think it's a very attractive bind off. Granted, it's a sock, so it's hidden under your pants. But I also find that it's too stretchy. Your socks fall down because this bind off is that stretchy. I don't know, maybe, I also have relatively narrow feet, So maybe if you have, and calves, so maybe if you have wider legs, that doesn't happen, but that bind off it doesn't work for me. And so there's this little tree pattern with snow, and then the back is just this sort of checked pattern. This is a toe-up pattern that I converted to cuff down. That was not a challenge. Like, it's a very simple pattern. The only thing that's not vanilla are these, like, 8 rows. Maybe it's 10. I don't know. So, but I definitely saw some very frustrated comments on the Ravelry project page, on the Ravelry pattern page, that said, you need to specify that this is a toe-up pattern. Nowhere does it say that, and now I have to convert it. It was not hard. I don't know why that person was so flustered. It was really very easy to convert the pattern, but anyways. This is the pattern. These are the socks. I finished both of them. These were supposed to be for my brother-in-law for Christmas, but we went to Florida and celebrated Christmas with them, and I left them home. So either he'll get them for Christmas next year, or they'll go to my husband, one of the two. Next, I have another pair of socks, and these are the Police Box socks. I do not remember the designer's name, but I will put it on the screen. These are knit out of, the main color is Galaxy by Bad Wolf Girl Studios. I think the yarn dyer's name is Meg. And this is her Stellina base. I forget, it's probably a 75-25 blend, but it's merino, nylon, and silver Stellina. But yeah, these are for my cousin for Christmas. She really likes Doctor Who, obviously. So yeah, these are going to her. I have to mail them. She lives in Alaska. She's based in Anchorage, at the Air Force Base there, and I have to mail them. She was going to be out of state for most of most of December, so I didn't mail them before Christmas because I was worried about them, you know, sitting in her mailbox for a month. So I've got to mail them now. I also work 9 to 5, so it's very difficult to get to the post office because they are only open 9 to 5. I'll have to bring them to work and go at lunch, or maybe I can because it just, getting going that early on a Saturday, not that I am up, because they close at, our local post office closes at noon, I think. Not that I'm not up well before noon, I just like to spend my morning leisurely drinking my coffee in my pajamas on my couch. There's nothing wrong with that. So by the time I've gotten up, taken a shower, and gotten dressed, it's usually afternoon. But I've done things. I like to sit on the couch and knit and read. I guess I could just not do that, but I don't particularly want to. I'd rather just go out on my lunch one day this week and mail those, because during the week I'm up and out of the house by 8, and then on Sundays we're up and out of the house by 9:30. So I want one morning where I can leisurely sit and drink my coffee. Anyways. And then, I have one more finished object. And these, I'm kind of sitting on them. Alright, so these are my holly socks. So these are a original design of mine. I was actually writing up the pattern this morning, so I'm going to get these out to test knitters hopefully this afternoon, but if not, definitely this week. So these are the socks. They're called the holly socks, and they're just this cabled rib pattern. They're just this simple but like elegant sock. Yeah, and so they're knit out of Knit Pick Stroll. I used a Fish Lips Kiss heel on these. Both of those pairs of socks also had a Fish Lips Kiss heel. 2x2 rib for the cuff. Jeez. And I have to say, I've worn these once, and I'm sort of falling out of love with Knit Pick's wool. Not wool, all of their stuff. Their Stroll, which is their sock yarn. It's a merino nylon blend, and it pills like crazy. It's just too much pilling for me. I also really like BFL socks. I'm actually wearing a pair of socks that I finished recently that are made out of a homespun house yarns in her BFL base, and I absolutely love them. So yeah, merino, it's just not that much softer than other like fibers like BFL to sort of justify the amount of pilling you're gonna see. So yeah, those are my Holly socks. That's the name of the pattern that I've decided on. So yeah, hopefully these will go out to test knitters and then be released by the end of the month. I'm hoping by the beginning of February these will be available on Ravelry. So yeah, that is all of my finished objects. Now we can move into whips, which I have 3 that I'm currently working on regularly, I would say. And the first is a pair of socks that I am knitting for my husband. I am past the heel. I'm probably a little over halfway done with the foot. He doesn't have very large feet. He wears a men's 9.5 or US men's 9.5, which is not small. It's probably about average, but he certainly doesn't have big feet. Anyway, so this is knit out of Knit Pick's Hawthorne, which is a Highland wool nylon blend. I would say it's definitely similar to BFL. I really like it. I think it holds up the best out of the Knit Pick sock yarns. And this is the picnic colorway, which is just this red tonal variegated color. And these are knit on Chiagu red lace needles, which are my favorite sock needles. And these are US size 1s, which is a 2.25 millimeter needle for those of you outside the States. And yeah, so whips that I have, my only other 2 whips that I'm currently working on are both sweaters, and they're both for me. So the first one I'll show you is my owl sweater. This is a cardigan pattern, but I'm knitting it in the round, and I'm going to steek it because since I've discovered steeking this year, I'm never knitting a cardigan flat again, because why? It takes like twice as long. That's pointless. I mean, sure, like cable patterns, you're knitting and purling just as much on both sides, so it doesn't really matter. But like for something like this that's all stockinette and then a lace pattern, why would I knit that flat? Why? So I'm steeking it. I'm almost done. I'm currently doing the neckline shaping, which I am doing not in the round, working flat. So yeah, this is almost done. I've got to still sew up the underarms, finish the neckline, and then do the button bands, and then steek it, obviously. But yeah, so I'm really enjoying how this is knitting up. I'm knitting it out of Knit Pick's Wool of the Andes in the Dove Heather colorway. I really love Wool of the Andes. It's a really great workhorse yarn, I guess, would be a good name for it. It's just really solid. Doesn't really pill that much. I mean, all yarn pills, but this is fairly low pill. And it just really holds up. It's a great worsted weight yarn. It's not really splitty or anything like that, so I just really enjoy it. And I'm knitting this on my Knit Picks interchangeable set, which I'm definitely falling out of love with. I got these about, I think I got these 2 years ago. Or was it 1? I got these whenever I knit my first sweater, which I can't remember when exactly. Oh, this was I got these last fall. So fall of 2016, I got this set. And it's worked great, but I have to say, so it's got a laminated like finish on it. And as you use them, that sort of wears off and the needles are not as slick, which is something that I really like. And the yarn starts to like snag on them. So I really want a pair of the Hiya Sharp interchangeables, which I will eventually invest in. But yeah, so I'm definitely falling out of love with these needles, but I love having an interchangeable set because you always have the right needles. So yeah, it's sort of with this particular set, a double-edged sword. I've also looked into the Leica needles, I think is how they're pronounced. They're the driftwood needles, and they're very smooth needles. I am sort of waiting to see how people feel about them after they've had them for a while, because I found with these Knit Picks interchangeables, they were great for the first sweater that I knit with them. And then somewhere halfway through the second sweater, I would say, the finish starts to wear off and they become really annoying. So I would kind of like to see how people feel the Leica needles hold up, because I definitely like the wood needles, the laminated wood needles. Maybe, I think the Knitter's Pride. I think Knitter's Pride and Knit Pro are technically the same company. I think Knit Pro is their non-US name, and Knitter's Pride is their US name. I could be entirely wrong, but Knit Pro seems to sell the same exact needles as Knitter's Pride, but if you're watching a podcaster who's based in Europe, they'll say Knit Pro whatever needles instead of Knitter's Pride needles, and they seem like the same needles. Granted, I don't know that for sure, but anyways, I think they have a wooden needle set, but I think all of their needles have wooden tips. Like I know the Carbon's needles have like the carbon needle shaft, and then the tips are metal. And I do like those needles, but the Carbons are a little heavy for my taste. Like they're a size, the DPNs that I have are size 3s. And so size 3s are not big needles by any means, and they're definitely heavy. Which I've noticed that if my needles are heavier, they affect my gauge. They make my gauge looser. I don't know why that is, but needle type and needle material definitely affects my gauge. So yes, I don't particularly like the Carbons. They also make me feel like I've got little tiny splinters in my hand. That might be like in my head, because they're, I don't know, but they do, I swear. So I don't particularly love them, but I do like the idea of having a wooden needle with a metal tip. So I think it's the Knitter's Pride Dreams line. That's the wooden shaft with the metal tip. So maybe I'll look into those as well. But anyway, so this is the owl's cardigan, the owl cardigan. It's based off of Ginny. Like, I think if you look up this pattern on Ravelry, it's called Ginny's cardigan. I think she wore this cardigan in one of the movies. The model they have wearing it in the book, in this pattern collection, the Knitting Wizardry book, definitely looks like Ginny Weasley from the movies, or Bonnie Wright, I think is the actress's name. But anyways, yes. So that's a picture of it. And so I'm almost done, and I'm really liking how it's knitting up. So I'm excited to have this to wear. So my final whip is also a cardigan, and that is the Damiakalopa cardigan, I think is how it's pronounced. The designer's name on Ravelry is Peneguri. And yeah, so it's this beautiful colorwork cardigan. It's patterned mostly in the yoke, and then the body and the arms are this flea pattern. I haven't touched this in probably about a week. We were in Florida, and I got to the point where I needed stitch markers because I was going to start the waist shaping, and I didn't have enough, so I just sort of put this on hold and was working on the owl cardigan. So this is knit out of Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which is their fingering weight. And Brooklyn Tweed is, I forget the name of the breed of the sheep. It's like something it's an American breed, I assume, because the wool is sourced in the States. And it's also a wool, like a breed that I've never heard of. So I think it must be a North American sheep. But anyways, so it's not merino or anything. It's definitely a little bit toothy. But when I blocked my swatch, I was amazed at how much it softened up. Because it was like, well, it's, you know, it's a cardigan, I just won't be wearing it next to skin. But my gauge swatch softened up enough that I totally could wear this next to the skin. So I'm just loving how it's turning out. I have my colorway names written down on my little pad. So this colorway, the main contrasting color, is their Long John's color. And then this reddish orange down here is the Cinnabar colorway. Then this yellow that's up here and also down here, that's the Hayloft colorway. This brown is the Meteorite colorway. The orange is Ember, or Embers. And then the main color down here is the Postcard colorway. And it's this gray color with sort of with reds and pinks, with red and pink undertones, which is great because I don't have to really worry about this red running because it already has pink undertones, so if it does, it's no big deal. So yeah, I'm really loving how this is knitting up. Now that I'm home, I will start doing the waist shaping and really working on this again. It's sort of, we've had quite a busy week since we've gotten back from Florida, and this was in the car, and then it snowed, and I wasn't going to go out there and unbury the car for this when I had something else to work on. And then of course when I ran out of yarn, not ran out, I had more skeins of it, but they were in the car. I was like, I guess I have to go do something about that. But actually Scott went out and got it, so yes. So that is this. And that is all of my works in progress and finished objects. And so now we can move into what I've been reading. So I am currently reading the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. I'm still on book 1. I'm probably a third of the way through book 1. And I think, what is the title of the first book? I think the first book is called Final Empire. I'm listening to it as an audiobook. So I find with audiobooks I don't always know the title. Like if it's a series of books, I don't always know the title of the book because I'm not holding it and reading it. I'm listening to it, and so it's easy to not, look at the title in the little thumbnail on Audible because it's fairly small. But yeah, so I have been listening to a lot of audiobooks. That's mostly how I read now, because I can listen to audiobooks at work. My job isn't super, mentally taxing. That's not quite the right word. It's not super involved. I don't have to think about a lot of it. So I listen to audiobooks pretty much all day. Obviously, if I'm talking to clients, if I'm emailing people, I can't be listening to audiobooks because I'll start typing what I'm hearing, or I'll just completely tune out what I'm hearing, and then there's no point in that. So I'm really enjoying Mistborn. That's pretty much all I'm reading right now, which is pretty sad for the knitting bookworm, right? But that is what I'm reading. So now we can move into my ramble segment, which is where I talk about what's been going on. If you care to stick around for that. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. But yeah, so it's been quite a busy week. As I had mentioned, we got back from Florida. We drove back New Year's Day, so that was Monday, and we got in at like 2 in the morning, and our furnace had shut off. We knew our furnace was not working because my parents had come in while we were away to feed our cat, and they had called us and said, hey, your furnace is off and we can't get it restarted. So that was a little bit stressful. So we made it through the night, Monday night. It was cold, but not unbearably so, and our bedroom was definitely comfortable. The rest of the house was not, but our bedroom was fine. And then Tuesday, Scott went to Walmart and was able to pick up another space heater that took care of pretty much the rest of our apartment. The way our apartment is shaped, our living room, plus where our computers are and our dining room are all in one room, and that was pretty warm. Our kitchen was definitely not heated by the space heater, but we were cooking and baking all day because we had no heat, and so the kitchen was fine. The bathroom was really cold. Taking a shower was not fun. But that was it. The rest of our house was a nice temperature. And Tuesday afternoon I went and got Varen from the friend's house, and Varen was very upset with me, and she made that known all night Tuesday night. She meowed pretty much all night. She was very, very disgruntled. And very upset that we had someone come and get her from our house. So, what are you going to do? She's forgotten about it now. So she's back to normal, sleeping and occasionally wanting to be pet. But yeah, that was our week. Wednesday afternoon, the furnace repair man came and fixed our furnace. So by the time I got home from work on Wednesday, we had heat, and our apartment was back up to normal temperatures. So that was great. Because Thursday, we had a blizzard. Well, I think they're technically calling it a snow hurricane, which I imagine is because of the shape of the storm and the way the storm cloud is forming. Because like hurricanes, the storm clouds are like make like a circular pattern. They have like circular winds, and I imagine that is why they were calling this a snow hurricane and not just a normal blizzard. But yeah, we got a foot of snow, which is, of course, was more than they were projecting. They were saying, oh, you'll get 3 to 6 inches. But we had 3 inches probably by the time I woke up on Thursday morning, and I don't think it started snowing until well after midnight. I think it started snowing, or it was supposed to start snowing around 3, I think. And when I got up, it was snowing like crazy. And yeah, so we got about a foot of snow. Our condo association did not really do a good job of removing it, and so it all froze overnight on Thursday, and Friday it was really very slippery, lots of ice, at least in our condo. I don't know what the roads were like because I worked from home. So yeah, this weekend, this Sunday, tomorrow, is our first wedding anniversary, so I am excited about that. We're gonna go out to dinner, do something small, and then in February we're planning on going away President's Day weekend, which will be nice. So yeah, that is all I have for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Myra Beth Knits. You can also find me on my blog as MyraBethKnits.com. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.